First of all, I grew up somewhat poor. I grew up on a tobacco farm in Johnston County. I came to Raleigh, went to NC State, and then became a haberdasher. For people that don't know what a haberdasher is, it's a clothing store owner. And I was in that business for 12 years. Did very well. I had a store on Hillsborough Street called the Stag Shop. The Stag Shop was a specialty men's clothing store, high-end clothing. While I was in that business, I met some really very interesting people, influential people that really kind of ran Raleigh back in those days. That was in 1983 to 1991 or so, somewhere along there. They came in to buy my clothing. Governors, Governor Martin was one of my favorite governors back in the day because I would go down to the governor's mansion and get him all suited up. And I became interested in real estate because a lot of my clients were people in the real estate business. So I started dabbling in real estate a little bit, if you will, buying pieces here and there, and while I was in the clothing business. And it grew, and it was a great time for the real estate business back then. Raleigh was still small, a lot of opportunity, unlike now when you can't find anything, right? I can tell you, my first deal, pretty much, for Mr. Willie York. He owned 500 apartments in Cameron Village. You all know, you drive past them probably every day. He started converting those into condos, and 50 at a time. I bought 6 of them. So when I bought those 6, I bought them 2 at a time over about a 6 or 8 month period. And again, I go back to my contacts. I had a banker that loved me, I loved him, and he loaned me the money, which I was probably a risk, honestly, at that time. I was young, didn't really have much. Well, I bought those condos for $29.9 each. Fast forward 2 years, sold 4 for $69.9 each, and the last 2 I sold 2 years later for $99.9. So when I did that right there pushed me over the edge. I knew then, man, that was for me. My company took off fast, so eventually I sold my interest in the clothing store and started a Raleigh Development Company. 414 building, I went in, I bought it, I redeveloped it, if you will, and it became, really a good venture for me. And that was before Fayetteville Street was opened back up to a street. It was still what they call Fayetteville Street Mall during that time. And then I bought the property over McDowell Street and Cabarrus Street. And then I got an opportunity at the Capital Bank Plaza building, 333 Fayetteville Street. That building was coming up for sale and very few people knew about it. It wasn't on the market. And to be able to buy that building, I decided that I would make a hard run at it. And I tell you, it was a time in my life when I needed a partner, so I did find a partner in Don Carter. Don Carter came on board with me. I flew up to Boston to meet the gentleman that owned the building to get ahead of the curve a little bit because there was some interest, and got to know Mr. Al Messino very well. And we became friends. He told me when I left Boston that day, he said, my friend, I'm gonna make sure that you get this building. And so he kind of like, the competition never knew what hit him, right? I got back to Raleigh, and sure enough, about a month later, we did the deal, I got the building. I don't mind telling you, I bought the building for a lot less than it's worth today. I won't give you the number exactly, and then I put the same amount back into it to redevelop the Capital Bank building. And about that time, as luck would have it, if you will, and I kind of knew this was coming, but I didn't know when, the powers of Raleigh decided that, and I was very involved in politics at the time, decided to open Fayetteville Street back up to traffic instead of a mall. And boy, did that spur downtown. That's exactly what it took to get it going. And that's what happened, and filled that building up quickly, because when I bought it, it was 29% occupied. That's probably the most difficult time in my career in the real estate business that I had, even though I took a big chance. I worked hard, I put my nose to the grindstone, and I got that building filled up. And at the end, I brought Capital Bank in, and that sealed the deal. So by far, for me, and I've done numerous things since then, that has been my best venture in the real estate business.